Hola. Welcome to Word to Your Mama, the podcast that amplifies diverse voices and celebrates shared experiences. Hosted by me, Ritzy P., a Latina creative entrepreneur with a background in art, music, and new web technologies. From Academy and Emmy winners to activists, artists, and builders, we celebrate the rich diversity of my multicultural tribe. There will be special guests, mad laughs, and absolutely no BS. Word to Your Mama drops every Monday on your favorite podcast platform. So for all my hip-hop aficionados out there, if you're really a fan of hip-hop, then you definitely know about the world-famous Beat Junkies. Today's guest is DJ Rhettmatic, DJ, producer, member of the world-famous Beat Junkies, instructor at the Beat Junkies Institute of Sound, and basically just like a living legend if you know anything about hip-hop. In this episode, we'll be discussing his evolution of being a DJ and producer and joining the world-famous Beat Junkies, being an advocate for the legacy of hip-hop. Also, does LA hip-hop get enough respect when it comes to the overall history of hip-hop? Navigating being a caretaker for his mom. I mean, I'm sure on all the different podcast episodes that he's on and interviews, he's talking about hip hop, he's talking about his story, but this is maybe a rare insight into what he has to deal with on top of just being a DJ and producer. This is like real life stuff that a lot of folks that are in our age bracket have to deal with, being a caretaker for your parent and all the intricacies that go into that. And then he tries to narrow down his top 5 hip hop albums. Is he successful? Who's to say? And how he got into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We also have some questions and comments from the audience, from Raka from Dilated Peoples. We have Assad from Footlong Development. And basically, let me just say that this was recorded, our convo was recorded back in January, but it's coming out in June because that's how the schedule works sometimes. And we talk about giving props and shout out to Assad, but we also talk about, we're wondering if there's going to be another Wonderful. Well, of course, things align. And yes, if you're listening to this in June, on July 27th, there will be a Wonderful in the Park where it's basically a tribute to Stevie Wonder. It's a fantastic event. If you're in Los Angeles, please come through. It's free. Bring your family, bring your chairs and your blankets and your snacks, and it's a wonderful time. Make sure to check that out. So yeah, I bring you Rhettmatic. Hola, thank you so much for being here. So before I get into the nitty-gritty, I just want to say, what are we doing here? Are we going by Nazareth? Are we going by DJ Rhettmatic? Are we going by Rhett? How do you want me to address you for the folks?
Sis, whatever you want to do is comfortable. It's okay with me. So, whatever you want to do.
Muchísimas gracias for being here. Let's start it off the way I start off all the convos. How are you doing? ¿Cómo estás? How are you doing?
¿Qué tal? I'm doing fine, sis. It's well, I'm in my studio garage, so it looks kind of grainy, I guess. Hopefully the internet doesn't drop, but for the most part it's pretty good. I am doing good. My mother hasn't yelled at me yet. If people know that I'm my mom's caretaker, so I'm like a walking Joe Coy skit. So, but other than that, it's still here. Rock, doing beat junkie stuff or visionary stuff or school stuff at the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound. So, or anything in between. So,
what is your mom doing? I made a note to talk about your mom because she's so cute, and I love when you do your posts and you take her out to lunch or you take her out to dinner. How's she doing?
She's doing good. She actually turned 83 earlier this month. So, she's
my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't, pre-pandemic she was driving and all that stuff, but during the pandemic she definitely slowed down a lot, so she doesn't drive anymore. So, I'm pretty much her, her chauffeur and gopher and whatnot. And she's still a Spitfire, even though she's, it's interesting because for those who are starting to become caretakers for their parents, it's like role reversal. Like it's like I'm the parent,
Right.
and she's the child. But even though she's still active in many ways. She's starting to get forgetful. Uh, I do notice that
Right.
as parents, as your elders and stuff, they get older and they're set in their ways. So it's a
Mhm.
struggle and a balance and stuff. But for the most part, knock on wood, she's still good. But it's definitely a challenge and stuff like that to balance. Being her caretaker. She still thinks of me as still I'm a teenager, even though I'm a grown adult and stuff. So go figure. But then she wants me to do things like I asked you to do these things. I've done it, but she the elderlies have their own certain ways of doing things and stuff. So
Right.
she's on her iPhone, but she's still like, I don't know how to do this thing. But mom, you just did this. Like, do this. I was like, "All right." So
Yeah, this has been a conversation that I've had a lot in the past couple of years. We are of a certain age bracket, and there's a lot of us that are dealing with having to have that role reversal of being the caretaker to our parents. And one thing I definitely want to say for those of us who had to deal with it at an early age, a long, long time ago, is there's one thing to be a caretaker, but then there's levels, as you know, to be a caretaker to your parent because of the levels and the whatever relationship, good or bad, that's there on top of the drain and the stress and the anxiety of having to do what you do. But one thing I will tell you, if you're not already doing this, and to anyone watching or listening, I I really suggest that you get because there's so much access to online communities, get, even if you don't participate, even if you don't, just reading stories of people that are in your similar situations, children
mm,
who are caretakers to their parents that are ailing in health. She sounds like she's still, active and stuff like that, but then there's like another level where someone's maybe with crazy dementia or incapacitated,
mm,
and that takes a toll on you, right? Because
that,
you're like, this is a person who gave, literally, if it's your mother, she gave birth to you. And
totally
then the levels of having to deal with that. So I appreciate you talking about this because it's very important that anyone that's in a caretaker situation gets support, but especially if you're a caretaker to your parent or you're a caretaker to your spouse,
right.
that's like crazy, crazy level. So I'm glad
Mm.
that she's doing okay, sending all the good vibes, and that she, I'm happy that she has you. And, I know it must get frustrating sometimes, but you
Well,
guys to have a great relationship. I see how she shines when you take a picture of her when you take her out and stuff.
oh yeah. I mean, it's funny. It's like if I have to take a picture, she goes, wait. I have to wait for her to get ready and stuff. So it's interesting too. Is like when we go out, when I have to take her, when I have to take her to a doctor's appointment, or even like after this, I have to take her do her little shopping errands or whatever, whatnot. It takes her 2 to 3 hours to get ready, so I have to kind of plan accordingly and stuff like that. And so when she does, she looks like she's going to the movie. She's a movie star or whatever. She's a model, really
Yeah.
looking like, oh my gosh, she looks great, like that. But it takes her a while to get that. So, which is cool, as long as the hardest part is trying to time it when she needs to go to her doctor's appointment, and I would have to sometimes wake up real early just to get her ready to wake up early
Mm,
to get to a certain time to leave. And even if we get to that time, I would say, "Mom, let's go. We're gonna be late. Don't rush me.
right.
I'll go when I'm ready." And I'm like, goodness gracious. And then when we get there, huh? How come you didn't get me here on time? We're late. And I'm like, you damn if you do, you
You
damn if you
can't
don't.
win.
I can't win. So
Exactly.
yeah. So I mean,
Exactly.
it's interesting too because sometimes it's like it's very difficult, but sometimes you have to put your foot down, and it's kind of hard
Yeah.
to, because it's like again, that's your parent, that's your mother, and I don't we get in arguments like. I said this. I would say this a couple of times before. It's like we argue like a married couple, and stuff like that. It's because it's like
I bet.
you know, I mean, and I understand. It took a while to understand and stuff like that because when my father was alive, my dad would do everything for her, so she's used to that. So of
Mm,
course that
right,
me, being the only child, so that's another level in itself that I don't have any siblings,
right,
so I take the good and the bad.
right,
So she expects me to do the things like my dad does, and when it sucks because when I say I'm not dad, and she gets mad at me, so it's it's
right,
uh, it can be could definitely be a mental game, a really fucked up mental game and shit because you don't want to yell at your mom,
right.
but you have to like kind of
No.
put boundaries. And then like that's another thing too. My mom, uh she's which is interesting, is though she's not very certain things, she's very technology savvy. She can watch YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
go on Facebook, but like is crazy is that she can do an Excel spreadsheet. I don't know how to do that shit, and she knows how to. She's like, because she's an account, or she used to be an accountant and stuff, so that kind of keeps her busy,
Ah,
right? But at the same time, it's like because of as they get older, their memory's not as sharp. She definitely gets scammed a lot by a lot of telemarketers and stuff. So
oh, that's the
that's
worst.
that's the struggle too, because like and of course it's like when I point things out, she's like, I don't, it's not me, I didn't do this, but it's like you catch them like sometimes they're entering their credit card information. I'm like, I have to like literally take the phone, and they get mad at me. So it's that crazy struggle and stuff like that. So I mean, and then
Right,
another layer is the cultural aspect. Whether
right,
being like Latina, Latino, Filipino, Asians. Just that culture, giving that you have to respect your elderlies and stuff. So, but it's that, well,
right,
it's a gray area. Like like you want to respect your. I respect my mom, but then when you see them, they're like doing something kind of crazy, and you tell them they're gonna, they almost like they want to disown you and stuff like that. So
yeah. No, well, thank you so much. I mean, for sharing. I'm sure there's so many people that are listening or watching that could relate to this, and
mhm,
it's we need to have these conversations because this is definitely what's happening. I feel, especially all the things you just mentioned, super important for you to get support because
right,
it's like you said, you don't have siblings to even share, the responsibilities and the quote unquote burden. So it's all on you that,
yeah.
you don't get rest. You're literally her caretaker 24/7. So I hope if you don't already have it, Rhett, please get support. Even if you're
I
just reading other people's stories, you like to relate. You're like, oh shit, I'm not alone. There's other people, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Well, luckily,
So
luckily I do have
let's get into,
some
go
type of
ahead.
friends. Okay, luckily I do have some friends I talk to about it and stuff like
Oh,
that.
good. That's really good. Yeah, at least some type of support, right? Like you have
Mm,
people you can relate to that understand what you're going through, and you guys can like vent and like give each other tips and all this stuff like that. So that's really important. I think that's important
yeah,
for whatever we do, right? Like if you're into
yes.
something, like you got into DJing at such a young age, and you created what you wanted, and you made these groups and stuff like that. But
Mm,
Red, nowadays you've lived so many different lives. You've done so many things. You continue to do so many things, provide so much value, and really are an advocate for the legacy of hip hop, of DJing culture, the right way, all that stuff. When someone asks you now, today, and they don't know you and they ask you, what do you do? What is your answer?
I would just say like I work in the music business or an industry. I just kind of keep it vague. It's one of those things like I don't really
Right,
say what I do. It's like if you know, you know. Like it's the same thing when my with my family, like my relatives or cousins or something. Like when they didn't know what I do, I just say, oh, I just work in the music business. That's it. I mean, once they found out, then it's a different story. But for the most part, I really don't. I don't really just say, oh, I mean, I might at the most part would say, yeah, I DJ, but everybody think, oh, either two things. They'll go, you go jigga jigga jigga, or oh, do you do weddings or something like that? So it all depends really. So, but in most, I try to keep it kind of vague per se. I mean, if they ask more, I mean, now I can
Yeah.
say, yeah, I teach. Now it's interesting. Now I can say, oh, I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher. I teach. Music or
Right.
DJing. Well, I have to say DJ because if I say music, oh, do you play the piano? Like it's like so. Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
for the most part, I
So
just I just keep it vague.
nice. So, and then it also depends, right? Like you guys were just at NAM recently, like everyone knows who you are. But if someone's new and they don't know, then you're in that particular setting. You could be like, oh, I'm a DJ, I'm part of this, or I do this, da 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 da. So what, Rhettmatic, do you remember the moment that it clicked in your head? What age were you when it was like, oh, I want to DJ?
In terms of professionally or just in general?
Just in general, like in the beginning stages, you're just like, oh, I want to do this. I want to learn how to
I,
do this.
I would say definitely in my junior high or high school years, like seventh, eighth grade. When the in the early stages of hip hop, when it came to the West Coast. Like the early, like 83,
Right.
84. When you see when I remember my taste of it just in junior highs and seeing someone break out a boombox and then a circle was formed and they start popping and at the time, I didn't know what it was. But Planet Rock was playing. I mean, of course, everybody's a lot of first rap song they heard was "Rapper's Delight," but you never really correlate, you know, "Rapper's Delight" and hip hop and stuff like that because it was being in the West Coast. It's like we were definitely we definitely got it later than versus what New York was already involved and stuff like that. So, but I mean, there were certain, I guess, there's certain segments. I mean, as not segments, but certain things like obviously popping and locking was already it originated from the West Coast. So that was, you kind of see that there, but you never really put a correlation and stuff like that. But I once I seen certain things like like I saw popping, I heard the music, then eventually I saw heard about DJing and so, I didn't correlate that like there were older DJs and stuff my friends older brothers and sisters they play records but scratching they were just mixing but you still didn't
Right.
correlate. There was a lot, it's just at the time, it was just everything was so fresh and new. You just didn't know and once you caught the bug, you kind of want to learn more and more and more. So I'd say, yeah, just in general, I'd say like junior high, high school is when I really kind of like, yo, I want to do. I mean, you did two out of at least two out of the four elements of hip hop, So
Right.
I did three. I couldn't rap for shit, so even
And
though
so, Rhett, where were you
even though
born and
oh,
raised?
oh okay, sorry. Um I was
Oh, sorry. I
born
think there's a delay. What were you going to say?
I was going to say even though I don't rap for shit, Rocka would contest that I rap maybe one time in my life. He might luckily he doesn't have that demo tape, but anyways, uh,
We have we're gonna get to that in the questions and comments from the audience. He mentioned something, and we'll get into that when we get to that section for sure. So
okay.
Rhett, where are you born and raised?
I was born in Huntington Park, California, which is kind of like parts of kind of like East LA. My parents came from the Philippines in
Right.
1968, and then uh, they
Mm,
kind of moved around. They went to Santa Barbara, and then eventually moved to Huntington Park. Uh, uh, my dad found a job there, and then eventually they moved to Cerritos in 1971 and pretty much that's what's
mm.
pretty much I was raised. So I was born in Huntington Park, but raised in Cerritos, California.
And so I have family that live in Huntington Park. It's hella Latino. And Cerritos, you just think hella Filipino. Was it always Filipino? Like in the 70s, were they like the first to how was it back then? Did they ever talk about that?
Yes. So my parent. Well, so growing up in Cerritos, at least from the generation I was from, it was definitely multicultural. I mean, what
Mhm.
I found out recently in the last
Mm.
couple of years is that my parents were one of the few Filipinos, the first Filipinos to move to Cerritos. Cerritos was known as cows and stuff. I still remember. I mean, my parents was one of,
Ah,
like there was a, obviously, like a cul-de-sac, you know. There was our housing track, there's new houses, but the like
right,
5-10 minutes away from, there was cows. I can smell the cows. I remember growing up, I was like, what is that? I was like, I don't like that. It was definitely very multicultural, because I just remember, like, just as growing up in, like, whether it be elementary into junior high, I just remember, just there was like, Filipinos, blacks, Latinas, Latinos, all types of Asians, whatever, Japanese, Koreans, Indians, white, white. It was just like a little bit. It was like, to me, it was like an everyday thing. So, I mean, sure, there were. Eventually, now it's crazy when I moved, when my father passed away, and I moved back to Cerritos to be my mom's caretaker. It's definitely more Asian. It's like, I was like, I'm not used
right.
to it. Like, so I'm like, whoa, when did we had like when did we had a Jollibees here, here in Cerritos? I mean, we had Filipino restaurants, but I was like, when did we had Jollibees? Or, like, there's there's Koreans or Chinese. There's actually there's a city that's next door to Cerritos called Artesia, and they actually have a, like,
Mm.
Pioneer Boulevard is a street in Artesia, and that's practically called like Little India. And I was tripping out. Before, it was
Mm.
just like mostly Latinos and Portuguese on that area, like that. So there's always
Ah,
bits and pieces. So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, there's a lot of Filipinos in Cerritos, but for me, I grew up with, multicultural. That's all I remember and stuff like that. So, but yes,
right,
uh, and it's interesting too, because Cerritos at the time was one of their very few, I guess, suburbs and stuff that I didn't know. Like, you had people coming from Compton, or, just coming, like, different families moved to Cerritos. And what's interesting,
right.
my parents, the house that I grew up here in Cerritos, they bought the house in like in '71. Dude, it's a 2-story house. At the time, it was expensive, but it was like, dude, it was 30,
Shit.
and their mortgage was at 700. I was like, yeah. But at the time, from what I understand, that was expensive. Both my parents had to work in order to be
Right,
approved. So it's just things that as you become an adult and talking about mortgages
right.
and down payments and stuff like this. It's so interesting. This is like, whoa, your mortgage was my rent back in 1999. Like, that's crazy. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I know. It's really crazy. When I moved from San Diego to go to Long Beach State, it just I was just told by the friends that I made, they were Filipino. They're like, "Oh yeah, Cerritos. All the Filipinos are Cerritos. Where do you live? Cerritos." I was like, "Oh." So that's how I came to know Cerritos. So
Right.
I had B plus on here, who's the hip hop photographer, the archivist, all that stuff. And he also wrote the book. It's not about a salary, it's all about reality, stuff like that. And he photographed, the good life and Project Bloat. He was there during those times. I've also had DJ Bonds and DJ Breeze on here who did the documentary Where We're From, Rise of LA Underground Hip Hop Elements documentary. All fam. It's all fam. And one of the things that I feel that they've all their work has always done is really showcased the importance of the LA underground hip hop scene. You being a huge part of it, the Beat Junkies, the visionaries of that time. How do you feel that? How do you feel respect in the timeline in the zeitgeist of hip hop in general? What's your opinion?
That's a good question. I guess it depends who you talk to, but if you're talking about what's especially now with the because it was the 50th anniversary of the hip hop culture and stuff. Depending who you talk to and stuff, in some ways, I see a lot of fans. They always reminisce, or I won't say reminisce, but they always talk about not, especially about the '90s, the West Coast, the LA underground hip hop. There's always a big you know
Right.
a a big reverence to it and stuff. But if you talk about history wise, in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
publications and stuff, like yeah, like B's, like honestly, B's one of the first person to really talk about that. Uh, big ups to Bonds and Breeze for even doing a documentary just on that particular era. Because I mean, West Coast, let alone
Right.
LA hip hop, it's so there's so many layers to it, depending on who you ask to and what time frame and stuff like that.
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of, it depends. I mean, it's like shouts to Ava for doing This Is the Good Life. Like doing a documentary on that particular
Right.
thing. Um, Again, it depends, really. I don't know. It just in general, like not only LA underground hip hop, but just LA hip hop. Period. The history needs to be told. Like you know, all the way stemming from like Uncle Jam's Army and K Day and War Class Wrecking Crew, like
Right.
that whole era, right? I mean, people know only about breaking about with Boogaloo Shrimp, but and Pop and Taco, but there's so much more to it, right? There's so many layers to
Right.
the LA hip hop, uh, uh, LA hip hop culture. I mean, because at one point,
Right.
B's book talks about when everybody always just just concentrate on gangster rap or just whether it be Q or
Right.
NWA like that, but they did the resurgence of what's or not even see resurgence, but there's just always movements. There's always different pockets because like you can't also talk about the good life. You have to talk about even before that. You have to talk about like when United Nations and Funk Jungle on Water the Bush, those days, like the in between where you had like Ice T and the Rhyme Syndicate helping throwing that with the Zulu Nation when Africa Islam moved to LA from New York and stuff, and they were kind of they were kind of, I mean, even though it was gangster
Right.
rap, it's still hip hop to us, like NWA. I
Right.
mean, NWA
For
and Cube,
reals.
yeah, it was hip hop. It's just that the media called it gangster rap, but I mean, they were still. I mean, like
But
if you
it's
were,
hip hop.
it's
Right.
hip hop, right? So it all depends and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and it's kind of hard being that even though LA's big, it's still small because, uh, um, and it all depends
Right.
who you talk to because everybody's gonna have their own visions, which is cool. LA is so spread out. There's people don't understand. They only think when they think of LA, they only think of Hollywood, and when they don't think about the LA County, there's Orange County,
Mm-hmm.
there's the Inland, and it. But of course, being that the main shit was in LA proper or Hollywood because the industry. So you had to go. That's there. Everybody had their own different pockets, but no matter what, you had to go to
Right.
LA. That was so. It all depends. Like it really depends. Um, I would love to. I don't know how it's going to be done, but I would love to see people do more history. Like like how they do documentaries, like on LA hip hop. I mean, from whether especially like our forefathers, like with Uncle Jam's Army and the KD Mix Masters, and World Class Wrecking Crew, and then you guys got the Ultra Wave. It's so many layers of that. So it's kind of hard. It's like the
Right.
same thing. If you being from San Diego, there's probably also another thing that's another whole layer in itself. San Diego's is even though it's Southern California, but that's like way south, right? And so
This is your friendly reminder to take a deep breath. Este es tu recordatorio para que respires profundo. Take a deep breath in. Inhala profundo. Exhale as you observe your breath, letting all the air out. Exhala, observando tu exhalación, dejando salir todo el aire. Would you like to help me reach my mission of teaching meditation to 1 million children? ¿Te gustaría ayudarme a alcanzar mi misión de enseñar meditación a 1 millón de niños? I invite you to join me in the Decide Balance Oasis, a safe space where families can find bilingual meditations and mindfulness practices and so much more. Te invito a que te unas conmigo en el Decide Balance Oasis, un espacio seguro donde las familias pueden encontrar meditaciones bilingües y prácticas de atención plena y mucho más. Go to decidebalance.com for more details. I'll see you in the Oasis. Visita decidebalance.com para obtener más información. Nos vemos en el Oasis.
Gracias for listening to Word to Your Mama. I have a unique cross-section of guests on here because I'm a consultant who thrives at the intersection of creative innovation, tech, and community impact. There are a variety of ways we could work together, so check out ritzyperrywinkle.com to learn more. Link in the bio.
San Diego's a whole nother.
Right.
It's another thing. And then I'm sure the same thing. Cats from San Diego, if they want to get respected, they have to come to L.A. Like really drive up to LA
Right.
and stuff, right? And then of course, and then you talk about the
Right.
Northern California and Bay Area, they have their own. So it's interesting when you talk
History and their contributions.
So it all depends. If you talk about West Coast,
Right.
everybody thinks LA. You have to really be saying Bay, like Northern California or Bay Area or LA or Southern California or even San. It all depends. And then if you say West Coast, you got to talk about
Right.
Seattle, Seattle and Portland and, all the way up there. But yeah, but obviously the main thing that people, when they think about West Coast, they think it's really kind of like LA, really. They just, for some reason, they just put everything together. But the difference I'd say, like with West Coast or LA is that we listen to everything. That's one thing, we listen to
Yeah.
everything. So.
Right. Right. And I think you made a great point that, gangster rap is hip hop, because if you think about hip hop and what its inception and what it was trying to do, it was the voice and the megaphone to let people know what was happening in the streets. And that's exactly what was happening. They were talking about the lives that they were living, what was happening in their neighborhood. That's the definition of hip hop. So it all is hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So let's get into the questions and comments from the audience. First up, please ask my uncle how the Beat Junkies were started. And this is by your nephew, the Supernatural Bear.
The Supernatural Bear is very smart. So Uncle Rhett says this. The Beat Junkies was formed in 1992 by J-Rock. Ironically, this is the time when DJs were, the DJ culture kind of went underground, per se. Everybody tended to be more focusing more on the rappers, K-Day went off the air like in 90 or 91 or something like that. So there was no really outlets. And a lot of people that were like, that did DJ, stop DJing. They think it's like, it's played out, or there's no more you can do and stuff. So obviously some of us were still DJing we were from different mobile DJ groups, or just, Jay, for instance, he didn't have a mobile DJ group, but he had, he DJ'd with some friends and stuff like that. But we all came from different mobile DJ groups, and we happened and ran into each other to in parties or clubs or even battles and stuff like that. And we just noticed that some of, like there were only a few of us that were still into scratching or mixing and DJing and stuff like that, and records and stuff. So that kind of happened. And Jave always wanted to have his own crew. So Uncle Jay, Supernatural Beer, when he wanted to have his own group, he said, I'm going to start my own crew called the Beat Junkies. Uncle Jay used to work at a comic book shop, and he had these Green Lantern rings, and he would give us these Green Lantern rings and say, we're going to be called the Beat Junkies. We're going to wear these Green Lantern rings wherever we go and DJ. And that's kind of like pretty much the premises of it.
That's amazing. I love to that's I didn't know that story. I didn't know that it was him that gave you the rings, and then if you saw the logo and the progression of the logo, that makes sense. That all makes sense. I love that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. I noticed he did wedding theme mixes recently. I was like, "Oh, what?" I DJ weddings, but never thought about doing a mix series. So I want to know how that came about. And this is from a amazing fan of Word to Your Mama. His name is Brian Liu. He's from San Francisco, and he's also a DJ.
Hmm. Okay. So this question is from Brian Liu. Um, Basically, so I mean, in the '80s, of course, it was just DJ. And we were coming out as DJs. Even though we still cut and scratch, you would do anything. Being part of a mobile DJ group, you would do not only parties. To get any type of money and stuff like that, you start doing weddings, quinceaneras, and whatnot. So. Um, but we played, like, I mean, of course, if I had my way, I play with the music I want to play. But I would, we do those. For me personally, I would do those type of parties just to get money so I can buy the records I want to buy. So, but fast forward,
Right.
I stopped. Don't do mobile DJing anymore. Thank goodness. But the irony is, so Key Cool from the Visionaries, his older brother Jin was getting married, and they were getting married, and him and his fiance, at the time and stuff, like they were getting married in Hawaii. They wanted me to go DJ their wedding reception, uh, but for whatever reason, I couldn't make it out. So as a wedding gift,
Mm.
I I made, for their, uh, since they didn't have no DJ and stuff, I actually made a mix. Like all the joints that like we all grew up to,
Ah.
like 80 joints, like like all the 70s, 80s, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, like Rick James, Mary Jane Girls, Daz Band. I played all this stuff that
Right.
you would play, but and then of course, because Kiko's older brother is is older, so he grew up. He went to he was able to see like Funkadelic and Earth, Wind, and Fire in concert and stuff like that. But so I'd play those joints, and of course, if you really go to, like, say, a black wedding party, that's all you're gonna hear, all those jams, those backyard jams and
Right.
stuff like that, right? So I made that. When they got back, Kiku was telling me, man, your mix saved the day. They loved it and stuff. So, and everybody would always tell me, you need to make a mix on like all the jams and all that stuff. And this is the time when The Wedding Singer came out, the movie, with Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, it kind of weird. It's like, I just made a mix for Kiku's brother for a wedding reception, and everybody's telling me I need to put some joints and shit. So I kind of took the idea of, like, the saying, the wedding mixer. I mean, the wedding singer, the wedding mixer. So I kind of, as a joke,
Right.
and so the original artwork, I flipped the wedding singer and made it say the wedding mixer. I was had a suit on and shit like that. So it kind of as a joke. But the irony of that is that everybody's been like, yo, can you do my wedding? It's like, no, 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 no. So for, like, this is and I made that mix like in the early 2000s. So
Right.
finally, like, when, especially now, when, like, like with concept, DJ concept parties, like people, like the DJs throwing their own parties with concepts and stuff. And I know one
Right.
of the my man Randall, who used to run mixcrate.com, and says, you need to do a party. You need to do another mixer. You need to do a party. You need to do a party. So finally I just said, you know what? I'm gonna throw my own party. Shout out to Assad from Footlong Development, who who's
Right. Shout out to Assad.
he does the Flavors Party, all the '90s, and then he does all the Stevie Wonder parties with Spinner and stuff like that. And the Michael Jackson and Prince party. So I reached out to him saying, hey, how would you feel about that? So once that went in effect, I kind of like took the mix and made it into a party. So that's basically the theme, or the idea, how I started doing the wedding mixer. And it was cool because everybody knows me doing like, hip hop. I play a lot of things and stuff, and that, that's my era too. Growing up, in the 80s,
Right.
you listen to everything. Sure, hip hop, but we were also listening to funk. We were listening to new wave. We were listening to
Right.
freestyle. So it's like that was my era. So that's, and then I
Right.
wanted the people to have a good time and dance. So it's like the party. So that's the theme and shit. So I would wear a suit and and play all the joints and stuff. Like, I'm trying to make you do the 2-step and Soul Train uh dance line and stuff like that.
That's awesome to hear the origin story of how you got there. Shout out to Assad. Rhett, next time you see him, I'm trying to get him on the show. He has mad stories, mad history, all that stuff like that. Okay,
Yes.
so the next question. This might be too long, so if you just want to maybe mention a couple that are up here, I get it. What would you say are your top 5 hip-hop albums of all time? This is from DJ Kick It, and she's out of Austin, Texas.
Top 5. I never really think about it. It changes anyways, though.
Right.
Top 5, man. I don't know if there's any order really. You also got to think about also eras too. Damn.
I know. It's like, how can you narrow them down to just 5? To just 10? It's tough.
Yeah.
It's a tough call.
I don't know if it's even top, like I'm starting to think like sometimes the top 5 lists or whatever is like kind of irrelevant now these days to me because it's all subjective, right? I don't know.
Right.
Gosh, I don't think there's anything in order. I mean, I would say like, obviously for me, fuck. Public Enemies, It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold It Back. That's one. Damn. Sorry, I can't answer
it. It's a tough one. So
yeah.
No worries. I was like, I know that's going to be tough, but I'm going to ask it anyways because it was requested. Okay,
right.
Let's go to the last comments and questions. Brother Rhett, congratulations on your brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Uh-oh.
How did you start your journey, and how have you managed to stay consistent with it? And then the second part is, we all know you're world-class DJ, but tell the people about your vicious rhyme skills from the era when you had long hair. This is from your brother, Raka, from Dilated Peoples. First of all, I'm going to need a photo, please, of you with long hair. I need to know all about all of this. So if you want to start, wherever you want to start, jiu-jitsu or the long hair and the rhyme skills, it's up to you, Rhett.
Well, I'll go in order. So, shouts to my brother Raka. Honestly, Raka kind of like was one of the first people that actually got me into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I mean, because Raka was training with the Gracies in Torrance.
Right.
Especially when the UFC was just starting to crack off. I've always was into it, but I was like, but Raka was one of the very few people that, like, at least in the hip hop circle, was like, I'm taking this shit. Like, I was like, oh shit. He, in fact, he took me to my first private lessons with Henner and Huron Gracie, the brothers. Like, man, shout outs to them and stuff. They're the ones, like, I got my first private lessons. I remember it was funny because I don't know if it was both Henner and Huron, or was it Henner? And I remember trying out my the gi and stuff. I was like, oh shit. And like, I kind of know a little bit by watching, but watching and doing are two little different thing.
Right.
And I remember something like, I think it was Henner. What are you gonna do, Rhett, when someone's stealing your records and they're all like they're holding you down? What are you gonna do? And I'm just like, So, at the time, I wasn't ready. I don't know if I was like, dude, I'm not. I don't know if I'm ready for this. And this is like, I want to say this is like early 2000s. This is when I think Raka just got his blue belt, I think. And I couldn't afford it at the time and stuff. So another thing too, because I remember just messing with Raka. Hey, Raka, so what if I go like this? And he got me in the guillotine choke. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not fucking with you. So but Rocca was one of the first people. Honestly, one of the first people that got me into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and then like later on, obviously, so I started later on. Like I was 45. I was 45, and I actually gained. I was sumo red. I was fatmatic now, so I gained a lot of weight.
Fatmatic.
I was when I started. I was like around. I was around like around 270, 80 pounds and shit. So of course the
Mm,
my doctor was telling me, you need to do something about it. I was going through also like some type of depression, not knowing I had depression and shit like that. So
right.
one of my best friends, his name is Keith. He was training already, and he says you should try this out. And like try again, and like come on, try it out. Luckily I went to his instructor was my OG instructor. He was the first American black belt, first half Gracie American black belt. So and
Mm,
luckily he kind of retired, but he was teaching from his garage, so I kind of started going there, and that kind of like started my journey back. Really, really delve into it, because I also like I don't like going to the gym, or at least with when I
right.
with jiu-jitsu, you're learning something, you're training, um, and you have a kind of a community. So my one of my best friend Keith was like, he kind of helped me kept accountability for that. And so it always also like, and it was funny, he told me like some of the guys that were at the garage gym was saying like, he's not coming back, because like the first two rows I was like and then but I kept on coming back because I had a determination. So that was the thing. It was like I
Mm,
can't, I don't want to like, what's the word? I didn't want to disappoint Keith. In some ways, in my head, I don't want to disappoint Rocca too, as well, because Rocca was like, I was always like, Rocca tried to introduce me, and I never did. So that was kind of like the
right.
the thing. So a combination of that, and then I just kept on staying with it. And next, I found out, I was like, oh shit, I'm losing weight. So but yeah, it became a lifestyle and stuff. So it kind of like I stick with it. So um, I'm still surprised that I'm actually a brown belt. I'm like, I'm like, wow.
That's
So,
amazing.
so the second part of the question.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sis. Now the second part of the question: how to get my rhyme scheme and rapping with my long hair. So if you being from San Diego, you know how back then the style, Filipinos and even Latinos and stuff used to have the pompadours with the tails and stuff. So that was the in thing.
Yes.
So yes, I used to have a pompadour. Used to use Aquanet to spray, keep it in place, and had the tails and stuff. So yes, I did. Well, then I cut my tails, but I had the hair. And I remember Rocca meeting me. Yeah, I met Rocca early 91. This is like at the hip
Oh,
hop
shit.
shop. Yeah, and this is I said
Oh,
this is the beginning of the when they're starting to do the Rocksteady crew, West Coast, but like different chapters. You have the the San
right.
Francisco Bay Area with Rocksteady DJs, or Invisible Scratch Pickles now. Alex Aquino was running it, so they were starting to do one in L.A. And they were kind of putting, I wouldn't say tryouts, but they were inviting people and stuff like that. So, and that's how I met Rocca. Uh, uh, and then of course, during the time as being part of Rocksteady crew and stuff, uh, Rocca would be, was one of the MCs for Rocksteady crew at the LA, and along with Zulu Gremlin. And I remember having my 4-track. I try to rap and shit. So we did a demo over here in my garage with me, Rocca, Zulu Gremlin, and I forgot who else was it. I actually try to rap because you try to do a little bit of you
All the
you
things.
you try to do all the elements. So I was like, let me try. You know, I was like, man, that was my only once or twice times I rhymed. I rhymed on the Cosmonauts album, and you never heard me rhyme again after that. I mean, the closest you'll see me do is if I do like the chants, you know, get on the mic, say ho, yes, yes,
Right.
y'all, like that. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. But yes, Raka has seen me and heard me and recorded me rapping in my garage. In this particular garage, this wasn't here before, but in this garage right
Right.
here, he rhymed. And the funniest part, he's like, "Yo, man, can we smoke?" He was like, "You gotta go on the side of the garage and shit." So yes,
That's hilarious.
and I hope you never hear that demo.
So we do. I hope we do. Also, do you have a photo? Have you ever posted a photo? I need to see you in all your glory from the late 80s, early 90s with your hair. I cannot
Let me see if I can pull it up
imagine
here. I
at
mean, because
all.
I kind of posted it up on my Instagram because I actually visited my old high school alma mater, and I have a friend there who's actually like he does, I don't know what you call him now these days, security or whatever. Some like there's a new term for it, like associated student,
Oh,
whatever. But let me see if yeah. I posted a picture. Hold on. I don't know if you can see this. So this is my yearbook.
right.
This the
It's kind of
1987.
blurry for me, but
Let me see if you can go. Don't worry. I'll do a close up.
I'll yeah, and I'll definitely put a link to it in the show notes because I have to see this clearly.
All right.
Let me
Well, I
let me
mean, oh shit, J Rock's calling me right now. Hold on,
He heard
Jay.
you. He felt his ears were burning. He felt
His
you.
ears are burning. So I don't know if you're ready for this. Bam! Right there. There you go.
Yes.
There you
Oh my
go.
goodness.
There you go.
Amazing. I'm definitely gonna have a link to that and repost that when this episode drops because that's amazing. Okay. Rhett, I know we're limited on time, so I'm just only going to ask the final 2 questions of the natural rapid fire questions, the AKA slow as hell questions. The 2 that I think are the most important for you being that, you know, you're a DJ, an instructor of the skill, of that practice, of that element. What is the song that you play to get you hyped when you need it?
Me? The song that get me hyped when I need it. Actually, anything James Brown. Anything James Brown, especially when it's
Okay.
like when I'm going to a gig, I just put on James Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like a go-to, like, what's the last one that you played? Because I'm going to put it on the playlist.
Oh, last one I play, Give It Up or Turn It Loose.
Okay, sweet. That will be added to the Word to Your Mama guest hype song playlist. And when you hear this episode, when it drops, it's going to be added to the top. And we have about, 4 or 5 hours worth of music from all of our past guests, all genres, all different timelines. It's amazing. Final question, Rhett. What will be your legacy?
What's interesting is now that we have a school, I guess our students is our legacy. I would never thought about that.
Right.
That's really interesting. So, but yeah, it's I think the legacy would be our with our as our Beat Junkies to Sound students. That's I think so,
Right.
I guess.
No, it is. It is. You don't think it is. It is because like I tell folks, you want to learn how to be a DJ, learn the history. Learn from the best, right? Because you guys have virtual classes, you have in-person classes. I mean, it only makes you better. The more digital, the more stuff that's going to happen. These skills, these, real skills, the understanding that the value provide to all of your students, young or old. I mean, you guys were just at NAM with, what was he? What is he, 3? What is he, 4?
Yeah, so interesting when you saw that. So the I guess it's kind of going viral right now. His name is DJ Millie Mills. So he's the son of Irvin I'll mess up Irwin's last name, but he's a DJ. A lot of people know him as a b-boy, but he's a DJ for
Mm-hmm.
Motown on Monday, LA, and also part of the Root Down
Oh,
sound system.
CCC.
Yeah, so shout outs to him and his wife Chrissy. He told a story at NAM saying how they would just play music for him, and he just kind of picked it up for himself. They didn't even teach him how to do all that stuff. He kind of figured it out. So when he brought him to the booth, it was funny too because it's like Mona Lisa. Shout out to sister Mona Lisa. She was like, "Yo, they're here." It's like, "Oh,
Yes.
okay." I was trying to get him up. Babs didn't know. Shout out to Babu. He didn't know who he was. Right? He was like, who, why is this kid over
Uh-huh.
here? Right? And he's like, you cool sign him, Rhett? It's like, yes, I do. As soon as I put him on, if you watch the video, you can see Bab's face going like, like that. And so I know, like he started, he didn't. It was the first time him using the equipment, but he kind of figured it out. That's the same thing Irvin said, like he figured out and stuff. And then he told me, he's like, yo, he'll do the back and forth with you if you do that. So when he told me that, I started just doing that, and that's how you see us going back and forth. It was pretty crazy. It was fun. It
Too
was
cute.
it was funny and cute because he still wanted to DJ, even though we're like, we're okay, it's time, right? He started throwing a tantrum. He literally kicked a water bottle. He still wanted to DJ.
He's
and
passionate.
stuff.
He's passionate.
Yeah, no, it was
We got to watch out for him. Like if he has the
timing.
the digit strength and control already,
His
and he's
timing
still
is
developing. Like kids that age, it's crazy. He was keeping up with you and like knew exact. I was just like, that's in the genes. He's an old soul. He's been here
Yes.
before. That's crazy.
Yes. His timing is impeccable. It was just incredible. Like someone said in the comments that his timing is even better than some of these adult DJs. I was like,
That's real. That's
That's
real.
That's real.
No lies detected. No lies
Right.
detected.
Right,
So, Rhett,
right.
let the people know what you're up to, where they can find you. This is going to unfortunately come out after your wedding mixer event with Assad Footlong Development. But, let the people know your handles. It'll be included in the show notes. Let the people know.
Yes. Y'all, everyone can follow me on Instagram, Rhettmatic. Same thing on well, I don't really use Facebook, Facebook.com/DJ Rhettmatic, but I'm there. But Instagram, I don't have TikTok, thank goodness. You can I don't have MySpace. But you can my Bandcamp page is rhettmatic.bandcamp.com. Of course, for the school, Beat Junkies BeatJunkiesSound.com for the school, BeatJunkies.tv for the online school. Our digital record pool is BeatJunkies.com. Of course, Instagram for the Beat Junkies is the Beat Junkies, and for the Visionaries, the Visionaries. Got in terms of music wise, by this time this podcast drops, the Junkies, D Styles, Babu, and myself are we're dropping an EP with this UK MC by the name of the Fly Hooligan. That's dropping towards the end of February. Right. The Visionaries are celebrating their 25th anniversary of our third album, Pangea. So we're look on that. I got some. I'm actually have a project that I'm producing by this cat named Napoleon de Legend. So I'm doing a whole album with him. He was originally from France. Was living in Brooklyn, moved back to France, but it's like this guy's incredible. He's dope, dope MC and stuff. So and I got some music here and there coming out like that. But other than that, and I get choked out over at Conde Coma, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and shit. So that's my school over there. So there you go.
That's awesome. So because of the anniversary of that album for the Visionaries, and we didn't even touch with there's so much that we could have talked about, but we only have an hour. Are you guys going to be touring for that in celebration of
Uh,
that?
I don't know about touring, but we are going to plan to do some a special show, like some type of special show, and we're going to actually re-release the album because it was never as we're going to release it as a double album. It was a box set, but it was only limited edition, so we're going to re-release the album for especially a lot of people. It's probably out of all our albums, it's probably the most popular ones and stuff. So we're doing that
Mm.
and probably some special merch and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it.
That's awesome. So many exciting things, Rhettmatic. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having the convo, for, being vulnerable and sharing about, mental health and, all the things about being a caregiver to your mama. Please hug her for me,
I
squeeze her
will.
for me. And I hope that we could see you soon. The Supernatural Bear hopes that we're oh, is it going to be, do you know? You probably don't know. He was asking me, I'll ask Assad. I'll text him to see if there's going to be a Wonderful again this year.
I'm
In the
sure.
park, though. I don't know.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is, and hopefully by that time I can hug a supernatural bear now that he's more taller and more talkative.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're gonna freak. You're gonna freak out. You're gonna freak out. It's a lot.
All
He's
right.
yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, muchísimas gracias. I really appreciate you.
Muchas gracias, sis. I appreciate you. Give supernatural bear a hug. Tell Raka, don't choke me out, and I'll see you three soon.
Yeah. Yeah, there you have it, folks. That's Rhettmatic. What a fascinating story. These are the reality, kids. These are realities. His father passed away, and it's him and his mom, and he is his mother's caretaker. So we want to make sure that there's a lot of things you can take from this episode, but especially if you're listening or watching this and you are a caretaker to your spouse, a caretaker to your child, a caretaker to a family member, especially your parent. I mean, that's levels upon levels. That's a certain dynamic. And when you add being a caretaker, it could be next level draining. So make sure that you have a good support system in place. Coming off of the heels of a conference consensus in Austin, Texas, we did a live recording of a podcast that just launched actually last week that I'm a co-host of. It's called The Get Down. And we cover stories about policy, industry standards, and updates, and how it impacts Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks in the world of emerging tech, crypto, blockchain, DeFi, and beyond. So all those episodes are live. I'll have a link in the show notes. The live episodes that we did while we're out there, this beautiful studio. I forgot, maybe the 7th floor. And back of us, it's the view of the Capitol building in Austin. It was a great, it was a great time. Yeah, my voice is going, I think, from so much talking. And I just recorded some other episodes right now. So, and then if you're listening to this the week of June, I'm recording this on June 4th. June 8th, I will be at the Hustle and Socialize Conference by Cristina Olivares. She's a previous guest. Go check out that episode. It's specifically for women entrepreneurs, women of color entrepreneurs, and I'll be speaking on the diversity of emerging tech and why you should care. How does that impact us all? And also, I'll be giving tips on how to utilize emerging tech in your business to help your business thrive. So I'll be there. There may or may not be any tickets left, but if you're in San Antonio or surrounding areas, make sure to come through. There'll be a discount code if there are any tickets left, but it should be a sold out event. And other than that, I mean, I'm debating as an entrepreneur. There's so many things so many moving parts that your schedule evolves as you evolve and your business evolves. So I'm kind of thinking and debating. I always end up taking a break in July, right? So I was thinking about taking a break in July and then maybe coming back and making Word to Your Mama like a season. So that way I can really concentrate on emerging tech journeys where I amplify diverse voices in emerging tech so that it is digestible to folks that aren't even in the space, so that maybe inspires, because we need more of you up in here. In emerging tech, we need, Web3, blockchain, DeFi, all those different things. So I'm debating. I'm trying to balance. Let me know your feedback. I'm thinking that maybe I could do seasons, and then while the season has ended on